Hold on, don't buy that new hand plane from the hardware store. The perfect hand plane was already invented over 100 years ago. This catalog isn't just a list of tools. It represents the absolute peak of American tool manufacturing, proving why a rusty piece of iron from 1925 still puts modern tools to shame. Today, we're taking a deep dive inside these pages to find out exactly why. By the time this catalog was published in 1925, Stanley had perfected their hand plane design into one that would remain mostly unchanged and copied by their competitors for the next century. This is the era when Stanley wasn't just a brand name, they were a titan of industry, setting the standard that every modern toolmaker tried to follow. Before Stanley became so well known for their planes, Stanley was known for their measuring tools. This giant wasn't formed by a bunch of guys deciding to design and sell hand planes. It was formed in the mid-1800s by merging a rule company, A. Stanley and Company, with a level company, Hall and Knapp. This would set the precedent for how Stanley operated. Identify the opportunity, acquire the best company on the market, and sell their tools to the masses. Throughout this catalog, you will see a logo of a heart with the letters SW. That's the Sweetheart logo. This logo was created to commemorate the 1920 merger between Stanley Works and Stanley Rule and Level, with the heart intended to honor William Hart, who served as both president and chairman of the board during his nearly 70-year-long and illustrious career with Stanley. For collectors, that logo marks the golden age of Stanley quality. On page 16, we saw the famous zigzag rules. Stanley actually owned that trademark. This was yet another great example of Stanley's strategy for market dominance. After seeing the success of these rules in Germany in the late 1800s, Stanley Works bought the rights through their purchase of the Stanley Rule and Level Company, made improvements to the design, and created a large variety of options that they marketed to sell for varying specific applications. And it wasn't just their designs and marketing abilities that made them a success. It was the quality of the materials and finishes. Throughout this catalog, we see woods such as cherry, mahogany, and rosewood, and even modern materials such as aluminum. On page 44, we got to see their steel squares. This is where Stanley really showed their ability to market tools for highly specific applications. They had rafter tables and brace tables stamped right into the steel, allowing a carpenter to frame an entire roof without doing a single calculation on paper. Then we hit the boring tools. Page 54 shows the bit braces. This was yet another example of Stanley's philosophy that if you can't beat them, buy them. Over the years, they acquired the best patents to build these ratchet bit braces, namely their purchase of the John S. Frey Company in 1909. Look at the concealed ratchet braces on page 57. The mechanism is enclosed to keep out dirt and moisture. This is a feature high-end toolmakers brag about today, and Stanley was doing it as standard practice a century ago. All right, here we go. Page 70. This is the reason most of you are watching, the hand planes. Stanley didn't invent the hand plane, but Leonard Bailey refined it into the system we all use today. On page 72, you see the standard Bailey line. This design, the depth adjuster wheel, the lateral adjustment lever, the cap iron, is so perfect that if you walk into a hardware store right now, the planes on the shelf are basically clones of this design, but quality in 1925 was far superior. And on page 74, we saw the Bedrock series. These are the ones that fetch the high prices on eBay. That flat frog surface, it gave the blade absolute rigidity, eliminating chatter. Today, modern premium makers like Lee Nielsen and Veritas base their flagship tools directly on this Bedrock design. Stanley had perfected the hand plane 100 years ago, though many collectors see the Bedrock planes as really being a marketing ploy by Stanley, offering very little advantage over the Bailey line of planes. This was yet another example of the genius of the Stanley marketing machine. And on page 76, we saw their Gage self-setting planes. They bought the Gage tool company in 1919 just to get this patent. These planes let you set the shaving thickness instantly. They were innovative, and Stanley made sure they owned it. Then we get to the spectacle of the woodworking world. the legendary Stanley No.45 and 55 specialty combination planes. They called the number 55 a planing mill in itself. Look at that illustration. It came with over 50 cutters, molding, beads, reeds, and flutes. In 1925, you didn't have a noisy electric router or a CNC machine. You had this. It was complicated, fiddly, and expensive, but it allowed a single craftsman to produce complex architectural moldings on site. As we move further into the catalog, we find that Stanley's obsession with quality and durability extended right into their line of hammers. In 1925, they offered everything from specialized blacksmiths and engineers' hammers to the high-velocity nail and riveting models. Whether it was a heavy-duty head for a bricklayer or a fine, polished face for a finished carpenter, Stanley understood that a hammer was more than just a blunt instrument. It was a tool of accuracy. And now we move on to chisels. Here we see their everlasting chisels. The steel shank goes all the way through the handle. You could hit these with a sledgehammer and not break them. They don't make them like this anymore because they were too good. They never broke, so nobody needed to buy replacements. And their famous Hurwood line of screwdrivers embodied this exact same design principle, offering a nearly indestructible design. These were professional-grade screwdrivers that featured a unique construction where the blade, shank, and head were formed from one solid piece of steel, with the handle wood then shrunk and locked onto the metal. This meant that no matter how much torque a carpenter applied, the blade would never turn in the handle. The catalog showcases a specialized tool for every trade, from the slender cabinet screwdrivers designed for delicate furniture work, to the heavy-duty machinist's models with square shanks that allowed a wrench to be used for extra leverage. And finally, towards the back on page 144, we see something interesting. The 4-square line of household tools. This was Stanley realizing that regular homeowners wanted tools too. They simplified the finish, added a distinct logo, and sold them cheaper. It was the beginning of the DIY market, but even their household grade from 1925 is likely better steel than the pro grade you buy at a big box store today. Flipping through this catalog, you realize something. In 1925, tools weren't disposable. A carpenter in the 20s might spend a week's wages on a set of bedrock planes, but they knew those planes would feed their family for the rest of their life. Ultimately, this catalog is a window into a world where good enough wasn't the standard. When you look at the intricate nickel plating on a number 45 or the hand-polished rosewood on a Sweetheart era level, you're seeing more than just utility. You're seeing a promise made from the manufacturer to the craftsman. It was an era that respected the person behind the tool, acknowledging that a craftsman's hands are only as capable as the instruments they hold. We may have more technology today, but we have far fewer tools with a soul. Holding one of these 1925 survivors isn't just about woodworking, it's about reconnecting with a time when things were built to outlast the person who bought them. The reason these 100-year-old planes put modern tools to shame isn't just nostalgia. It's because they were built by a company that prioritized quality above all else. They were built with better iron, better wood, and a pride of manufacturing that has largely vanished from the mass market. So, if you have Granddad's old jack plane rusting in a box, don't throw it away. Clean it up and sharpen the iron, because chances are it's got another 100 years of work left in it. Thanks for watching, and if you enjoyed this video, please consider subscribing for more vintage tool history.